All right, welcome everybody to the Lakers Legacy Podcast, where just when you thought it was safe to go back into the Lakers are turning the corner waters, the injury carousel curse returns. In comes JV, out go Gabe and Rui. In comes Rui, out goes JV. And now, more importantly, out goes AD with an abdominal strain for at least the next week. If it's not one thing, it's another. I'm your host, Jonathan Hernandez, and today I am potting solo. I was kind of hoping that I would just be able to talk about Jared Vanderbilt's triumphant return and the Lakers hitting their stride and going 7 games above 500 for the first time this season. But alas, all that came tumbling down last night when the Lakers lost to the injury riddled Sixers, and in the process, trust the process, also lost their best player in Anthony Davis as well. So, yeah, in today's podcast, let's call it an update episode before the trade deadline. In this episode, I'm going to talk first about Anthony Davis's injury, talk about the timeline of that injury, as well as the Lakers' schedule and how I think the Lakers will fare in the interim. And then in the second part of this episode, let's talk about some silver linings and how the Lakers can diagnose and assess this latest setback. All right, so let's get down to business and talk about Anthony Davis's abdominal strain. He suffered it against the Sixers in the first quarter last night. According to the Lakers medical staff, Anthony Davis will be reevaluated in a week. That does not mean he will return in a week. And depending on what grade strain Anthony Davis has, this could be a multi week absence for AD. If he has a grade 1 strain, which is what we're all hoping, he might be out for the next 7 to 10 days. Now, if it's a grade 2 strain, then AD could be out for 3 to 6 weeks. So that's almost a month and a half. Now, if he has a grade 3 strain, then it's a complete tear and he's done. You're looking at a multi-month absence that can last as long as 6 months. So I don't think we have a grade 3 strain here on our hands. And the Lakers medical staff, or at least there have been beat reporters from the Lakers end that have mentioned that the Lakers don't think this is serious. So we're looking at a grade 1-ish type strain for Anthony Davis. So hopefully he'll be back in the next 10 days. But given the fact that the NBA All-Star weekend is happening on February 16th, it would not surprise me at all if the Lakers end up being super cautious about this and hold him out till the All-Star break. And so if that's the case, under the assumption that they do end up holding AD out till the All-Star break, here is what the Lakers schedule looks like moving forward. They're at Washington tomorrow or today, depending on when you listen to this. Then they're at New York on Saturday, at the Clippers on Monday. Then they're back at home against the Golden State Warriors, the Indiana Pacers, the Utah Jazz, and then the Utah Jazz again in Utah. So those are their next 7 games till the All-Star break. Within this stretch, the Lakers don't have any back-to-backs, which is good. And they only have 3 road games at Washington, at New York, at the Clippers, and at Utah. Now, the Clippers game is considered a road game, but not really. The Lakers will be back in LA for that one. So I kind of count this as 3 road games at Washington, at New York, and at Utah. And again, the Lakers are currently 6 games above 500. So it's good that they were able to stack some wins and add a little bit of a buffer to their win percentage. And so these are the 7 games till Anthony Davis presumably comes back on February 19th versus the Charlotte Hornets after the All-Star break. Looking at this stretch, I don't think it's a very tough stretch that the Lakers can't overcome. At Washington, at New York, at the Clippers, Golden State, Indiana, Utah. Now, easier said than done because, as we all know, the Lakers over the last few years have looked like a tank team in Anthony Davis's absence. So how easy is any stretch without AD really? But if I had to guess, over these next 7 games, I think the Lakers can finish at least 4-3. I think that would be ideal for them to at least finish 4-3. I have them winning against Washington, even though LeBron James is currently questionable. I have them splitting 1 game between the Golden State Warriors and the Indiana Pacers. I think even without Anthony Davis, the Lakers match up pretty well with Golden State. So I think they could beat Golden State. And then I think the Lakers win both games against the Utah Jazz. You put that all together, and I think that's 4 wins, 3 losses. So if the Lakers can do that and go 4-3 over their next 7 games, they will finish out the All-Star break 7 games above 500, and Anthony Davis hopefully returns that next week on 2/19. Now, ideally, the Lakers go 5-2, but I just don't know how realistic that is without AD. Um, but yeah, if you guys are looking for any silver linings with regards to Anthony Davis's absence, the Lakers actually have been able to win more games this year without Anthony Davis than they did last year. Last year, the Lakers were 2-6 without AD, if you include the games in which he had to leave early within the game. This year, the Lakers have been better. They are actually 3-2 without Anthony Davis, if you include last night's game and the Golden State game in which he left in the first quarter slash first half. And so the Lakers have managed to find a way to still win games without Anthony Davis this season. And I do think that's in large part due to the fact that the Lakers have a much stronger center core to withstand AD's absence, even if we're just talking about third string centers in Jackson Hayes, Christian Coloco, and now Trey Jamison. Because last season, there were games where we literally only had Jackson Hayes, or we literally only had Christian Wood as our starting and backup center. This year, we at least have a crop of different centers. Now, they may all be at a very low end, mid sort of level, talent wise, but we have seen Christian Coloco be able to at least defend pretty well. We have seen Jackson Hayes, even though he looked horrific last night, be able to hold up against centers within this league and actually play some games well as a starter, notably the Boston Celtics game last season. I think he had another game where he started this season as well, where he pulled down 9 rebounds. So it is within the realm of possibility that Jackson Hayes can start a game for you and you can withstand him being your starting center. So between Jackson Hayes, Christian Coloco, and Trey Jamison, I think the Lakers have enough of a center core to be able to stem the tide in AD's absence. And then on top of that, this year, the Lakers have a stronger crop of forwards as well, especially with Jared Vanderbilt returning. They've got Rui Hachimura, LeBron James, Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith, and even Cam Reddish to hold up their forward front. And if there was ever a time for the Lakers to play small ball, I think it's this season. And if they were ever to play small ball effectively, I think it's with this group of guys. If there was ever a time to play Rui at the small ball 5 again, I think we can do it with this group now that we have Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt available, should they be available for these next 7 games, because again, there are no back-to-backs. So that's what kind of gives me a little bit of hope that the Lakers can manage without AD over these next 7 games. Again, they only need to go 4-3. They've got 2 bouts against Utah. They play the Wizards tomorrow. So I think it's more than possible that they're able to pull off a 4-3 stretch over these next 7 games. So we'll see what happens. So why don't we take it to break here? And then after the break, I want to talk about Jared Vanderbilt's return, some additional silver linings that we could look to in Anthony Davis's absence, and then we'll close things out from there. But before we take it to break, let's really quickly talk about our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, because with the big game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs right around the corner, now is the best time to jump into some fantasy prop betting with the Underdog Fantasy app. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all of your takes during the playoffs, which players are going off and which ones are ice cold. With their pick'em game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on players' stats, i.e. yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and more. Think Jalen Hurts will rush for higher than 32.5 yards against the Chiefs. Well then, cook up some fire entries for a shot to win real cash prizes all playoffs long. Create entries with all football picks or mix and match across your other favorite sports, like obviously basketball. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep writing with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want. So as it pertains to Lakers bets, tomorrow versus the Washington Wizards with Anthony Davis out and LeBron James questionable, I don't know what the line is for this player yet, but I would take the higher on Rui Hachimura's points prop line, whatever it ends up being, as long as it's within the 14.5 to 15.5 range. If it's within that range, take the higher on Rui Hachimura's points prop because the Lakers are going to need Rui to score, and the Lakers are going to need Rui to step up in a big way. Plus, it's a Wizards revenge game for him, so I think he can clear 15 to 16 points easily. So, yeah, what are you waiting for? Underdog is the best place to play Pick'em, so download the app, sign up with promo code LEGACY, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code LEGACY. Deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Must be 18 years or older, 19 years or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 years or older in Colorado for some games, 21 years or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado for some games. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369. All right, so we are back, and more importantly, Jared Vanderbilt is back. And even though he's only played 2 games, and even though he's only played around 12 minutes in each of those games, his impact and effect on this Lakers team has been paramount. And the Lakers will need him more than ever now that Anthony Davis is going to be on the shelf for the next 1 to 2 weeks. As I mentioned before we turned it over to break, I think the Lakers are more suited to play small ball effectively this year than they were in prior years. And this mainly coincides with Jared Vanderbilt's return because between LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, Vando, DFS, and even Cam Reddish, that's a really strong core of 6'7, 6'8 plus rangy forwards. And as it pertains to Jared Vanderbilt, he has looked surprisingly very spry in his return. I was not expecting him to look this nimble and this agile. I thought he'd come out a little slow and lacking in burst the same way that he looked last season because if you remember when he first returned in late November, early December last season, he looked slow. He looked tired. He looked out of gas. So I was kind of expecting that same sort of very gradual ramp up for him as he got his sea legs underneath him. But these first 2 games, the way that he's been moving on the court, the way that he's been chopping up his feet, he's been in this great fencing stance and continuing to jab and poke at defenders, him being able to actually sprint up and down the court, him pressuring the ball at the point of attack, him having that second and third jump whenever he goes up for rebounds has been very surprising in a pleasant way for me. And again, he's only played 11 to 12 minutes in each of these 2 games, but man, has his energy and motor felt so tangible whenever he's been out on the court. And the team just looks so tangibly better whenever he's been in the game. And I mentioned this on Twitter, but Jared Vanderbilt looks like a combo of all of the Lakers' best defensive players rolled up into one 6'9" rangy forward. Jared Vanderbilt has Gabe Vincent's point of attack ability to guard ball handlers. He has Max Christie's sound fundamentals to move his feet, stay grounded, and just be physical. He has Dorian Finney-Smith's rangy length and mobility. And then he also has Cam Reddish's pick six blow up ability on defense as well to get those steals and take it all the way down for the dunk. And just seeing him and DFS in that Charlotte Hornets game run amok defensively and cause havoc, it was like seeing 2 sides of the same Spider-Man meme coin. And seeing them both cover so much ground on the court and using their length to bother players and scrapping and fighting for loose balls, helping the helper, skying in for blocks, giving second and third efforts, it was just such a joy to watch. And it's just so unfortunate that we were only able to see Jared Vanderbilt and DFS and AD together for a max of 2 games. But now Vando and DFS are going to have to hold down the fort along with Rui Hachimura. But I'm very excited to see Jared Vanderbilt's continued ramp up because the Lakers are going to need him. And hopefully he can stay healthy because what I've seen thus far in just his first 2 games has been very, very encouraging. Now, the other player of note that we need to talk about in Anthony Davis's absence is Rui Hachimura because more of the scoring burden and more of the offensive burden is going to fall on Rui Hachimura in AD's absence. And I've mentioned it before, but Rui Hachimura's most valuable skill set is not necessarily his ability to hit a pull up mid range jump shot. It's not necessarily his efficient shooting from 3 point land. I think Rui's most valuable skill set to this team has been his general durability and availability over the last 2 or 3 years. Because whenever LeBron James has gone out, whenever Anthony Davis has gone out, it has been Rui Hachimura who has picked up the slack offensively. And the Lakers are going to need him to step up once again. So, just as a reminder, last season, in 6 games without Anthony Davis, Rui Hachimura averaged 21.2 points, 7.7 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 1 block on 53% from the field, 48% from three, hitting 2.3 threes a game. Those are incredible numbers, and they kind of give you a snapshot of what Rui Hachimura on another team with more usage, with more shots would look like. People have been talking about Nikola Vucevic this, Nikola Vucevic that. We should trade Rui for Nikola Vucevic since Vucevic is a clear upgrade offensively. And I'm like, is he really? Maybe he's a better passer and rebounder than Rui Hachimura. But what happens if you put Rui Hachimura on the Chicago Bulls and give him 15 to 16 shots a night? Well, we've kind of already seen what he does without Anthony Davis on the Lakers. 21 points, 7.7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block on stellar shooting. 53%, 48% from three. Now, I'm not expecting him to do that in this upcoming stretch, but even if we just get 16 to 18 points from Rui Hachimura and he can sort of find his offensive game and rhythm for himself again, I think that would help us out tremendously. And I know fans, ever since Jared Vanderbilt returned, ever since the Lakers traded for DFS, have been super down on Rui Hachimura. Fans have been very quick to get off of Rui, saying things like, what does Rui even do for this team now that we have DFS and Jared Vanderbilt? Well, we're about to see what Rui does for this team because anytime LeBron James or Anthony Davis goes down, it's not DFS, it's not Jared Vanderbilt stepping up. It's Rui Hachimura stepping up because we need 18 points to come out of him in order to make up for what we're losing on the offensive end in AD or LeBron's absence. So, thank God we did not trade Rui Hachimura prematurely and downsize and turn him into a guard like Bruce Brown, because then we'd only be left with Dorian Finney-Smith and a half-healthy Jared Vanderbilt who can only play 12 to 15 minutes a game and who we're still trying to work back into shape. So, I say all that to say, Rui Hachimura, gambatte kudasai. We are going to need you in a big way to show up. Please get your offense going. Turn into the bucket we know you can be. All right, lastly, outside of playing Jared Vanderbilt, DFS, Rui Hachimura, and having all those guys step up, what else can the Lakers do in Anthony Davis's absence? Obviously, the trade deadline is next week. People are saying the Lakers should trade for a big man immediately. Anthony Davis's injury should push Rob Pelinka to act now. And yeah, I think you guys are all correct. The Lakers should make a trade ASAP. But guess what? The trade deadline is next week, so ASAP is happening regardless. I don't think Anthony Davis's injury really changes anything because, again, the trade deadline is like 7 days away. And Rob Pelinka was going to trade for a big regardless of whether or not Anthony Davis went down. What Anthony Davis's injury does do, however, is I feel like it kind of kills the Lakers' leverage if they had any and makes the Lakers look more desperate going into these trade negotiations. So maybe the Lakers and Rob Pelinka do end up having to shell out more than they needed to because teams know, hey, you need my big man desperately, especially with AD out. So yeah, it might be a little bit tricky for Rob Pelinka to, get the bargain deals that he wants to get. But in my opinion, regardless of Anthony Davis's injury, I think the Lakers and Rob Pelinka should go out onto the market, if they haven't already done so, and dangle at least one of their first round picks, whether that's 2029 or 2031, and see what they can get. See what the best trade package for a big man they can get is, and take that package. Because we need to do right by LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Before Anthony Davis went down, that dude put up a 40-20 game. He has been playing phenomenally. They have upheld their end of the bargain thus far. 7 games above 500, 6 games above 500 with a fluctuating roster and injured players left and right. It is now time for Rob Pelinka to do his job, and I think he will be able to get some viable starting level center big man by using one of his firsts. And as I mentioned, because we're going to need Rui Hachimura in this next stretch, I would prefer that it's Gabe Vincent who goes out, but I understand that some of the centers that have been talked about, it's going to require Rui Hachimura to go out. So if we can get some of those high-end centers, then I'm okay with, shipping Rui out with our first round pick. The biggest name that's been talked about recently is Miles Turner. And of course, if Miles Turner was made available by the Indiana Pacers, he would be my number one big man target. The only question is, how available is he, and will he cost an arm and a leg? I don't know if the Lakers will be willing to give up both of their firsts for the rights to sign Miles Turner to his next contract next season, this upcoming summer. That seems super rich, but maybe if the Indiana Pacers also include another player like Aaron Nesmith or TJ McConnell or even Obi Toppin, like let's say if we have to give up both firsts, let's say the Lakers trade Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, and both of their firsts for Miles Turner and Obi Toppin, and maybe Indiana throws us a second round pick. That still seems like a steep price to me, especially because we're now taking on Obi Toppin's next 3 or 4 years at around $13 to $14 million. That still seems like a steep price for me to pay for those two players. But given our current state, given what we've seen from how good this team can look defensively with Jared Vanderbilt and DFS and Max Christie, I think the Lakers should do it. I think the Lakers should go all in that way. So yeah, I don't know how real the Miles Turner talk is. If they are actually real and the Lakers can get it done with one first, they should have already done that yesterday. If they have to shell out 2 firsts, then they need to make sure that they're filling up another spot as well. Because Rui Hachimura will need to go out, and probably Gabe Vincent as well. Now, if it isn't Miles Turner, then yes, the Lakers should also inquire once again about Walker Kessler. But if we're only talking about one first, then we go down the list and, look at our Jakob Poeltls of the world. Hopefully you can get guys like Robert Williams and Clint Capella for mere seconds. But yeah, I do think that trading for a big man is going to factor in heavily in the Lakers' plans now that Anthony Davis is injured. But again, I do not think AD's injury had that much of an impact on what the Lakers were planning to do this trade deadline anyways. It just becomes more imperative and crucial that if the Lakers can get it done sooner rather than later, they do that so that they can integrate this player, get him comfortable and accustomed to the team, and hopefully this player can help us out immediately, man the paint, and help us pick up some wins before Anthony Davis returns. But yeah, that'll do it for this quick update episode. I apologize that it was kind of all over the place. This was mainly me getting this Anthony Davis stuff off of my chest, talking about what the Lakers' upcoming schedule looks like, and who I think needs to step up in Anthony Davis's absence. So let me get my rambling ass off of here. We will have more trade discussion talk coming up in the days leading up to the trade deadline next Thursday. But till then, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Follow us on Twitter or X at Lakers Legacy Pod. Please also rate and review us 5 stars on the Apple Podcast and Spotify app. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. It's also at Lakers Legacy Pod. And with that said, we will catch you guys next time. Tommy should be with me the next time I pod. But yeah, get well soon, Anthony Davis. And let's rack up some wins in the meantime against lesser opponents. All right, I will see you guys later. Peace.